Welcome to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Heartland Crime Stoppers is a community-based program designed to help law enforcement solve crimes by providing a way for the public to phone in tips anonymously and receive cash rewards of up to $3,000 for information that leads to an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs. Heartland Crime Stoppers is funded through the State of Florida Office of the Attorney General Crime Stoppers Trust Fund and through donations from the community. Citizens and local businesses make Crime Stoppers work. On today's show, we'll talk with Chief James Elensky of the Haines City Police Department. The mission of the Haines City Police Department is working in partnership with their community to prevent crime and provide the highest level of service. Their core values are integrity, commitment, accountability, and professionalism. Chief Olinsky, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chip. It's good to see you again.
Well, I know this has been kind of a, not an ordeal, but we had scheduled you once before. You had to cancel because you had called out a traffic fatality. And
correct.
You were telling me earlier that you've had about 2 hours sleep.
2 hours of sleep, so I didn't want to cancel on you again. But speaking of Crime Stoppers, we put one out last night because we're looking for one of 3 suspects that we haven't arrested yet. And it certainly does work for us. We had a dangerous shooting yesterday near 13th and Avenue N. Fortunately, nobody was shot. And the suspects we arrested and the suspect we got a warrant for, it's disheartening to us and law enforcement because they have a rap sheet longer than your body. And it almost seems to me we're going back to the late 80s, early 90s where there's a revolving door. So these particular suspects, had they been in prison like they should, we wouldn't have this dangerous shooting yesterday. So that's frustrating for me. That was getting better for quite some time. People need to start talking to their legislatures and going to Tallahassee and lobbying and making sure that people spend more time in prison. Just because you steal a car doesn't mean you're not going to go out and rob somebody later.
Yeah, I remember those days back in the 80s when I guess the overcrowding, a number of things, and it was so frustrating as officers. You put somebody in jail and they'd ask you for a ride home from jail after you dropped them off, seems
Right.
like, by the time you got done. So it's a fine line, and it is very frustrating, I know, for law enforcement and for the citizens themselves. You know, they see these people, they've got long rap sheets, you know, and they're still out walking among us. They're shooting rounds, they're killing people. I know the sheriff just had one recently.
Right.
Where a guy from Tennessee came down that should have been in jail, stayed in jail from earlier incidences.
Right.
And it's just very frustrating because it makes your job as law enforcement so much more difficult because you just never know when these guys are going to go off.
Right, and it's very frustrating to citizens because, you know, if you don't know everything we know, citizens will think the police aren't doing their job. Why aren't we putting these people in jail? Why aren't they already in jail? Well, we've done it. We've done it numerous times. The state attorney has done his job. And you get through the rest of the system and the prisons are cutting them loose. So again, it just reminds me of the late 80s, early 90s. Something has to change before innocent people get killed again.
It is so hard because it seems to be a big push from certain parts of the population to cut prison sentences, you know, to decriminalize everything in the world. And it's just a domino effect because once you let something go like that, then that means, well, the next thing, step up from that, well, I should get off that one too. And
Right.
It has to stop somewhere, and it stops with people being robbed, their houses, you know, being burglarized, being assaulted, you know, being home invasions, being carjacked. It's
Right.
It's just
And you have people afraid to come to the police because those folks know that, well, why should I give the police a statement or why should I snitch on this person when he's going to be out of jail in a week?
yeah. That's one of the good things about, you know, Crime Stoppers is so many people are hesitant to do that. Mm-hmm. And it just provides a way for Crime Stoppers to allow these folks. They can call us, they can text us, you know, they can go on the web, do it, you know, through the website. Leave an anonymous tip. You know, we don't know their names. We give them a number, and that's all we know them
Right.
by. You know, so it
Right.
and it does help you. Certainly, as someone coming forward is better. You know, but if the ones that can't do that, you know, certainly have them use Crime Stoppers.
Right. It's helped us numerous times, and I suspect we'll get this last suspect through Crime Stoppers.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Right.
Well, I know as you've since we talked last time, youth is what year now, and your second or third year as
Going
police?
on the third.
Third year,
Almost third. Yeah.
at Haines City, and you've parked the planes. No more plane flying, because I remember as we
Right.
talked that you started out, you're living flying for a living.
Right. Right. And I flew for the sheriff's office, so I couldn't completely park them, or you can't stay current. So you still have to fly once in a while to maintain the license.
Well, I know that that was a big change, and again, coming up on working on 3 years now, I imagine you probably, the nuances of going from a large sheriff's office to a smaller municipality, you still have the same issues with personnel and with money, just a little bit smaller scale, but
Right.
you were talking about earlier about some new equipment that you've been able to procure and get from the
Right.
city.
Well, since we last talked, the sheriff's office went with a drone program. I started looking at that. Initially, a lot of people thought that would be a lot of money, but that's not true at all. So we started our own drone program. We have one pilot currently, and it's on a day shift. So we are looking to fill in for another pilot. We need another pilot on board. And we're looking to get our nighttime license from the Federal Aviation Administration. But right now, we do have one drone operational, and it does have infrared, the nighttime camera. So we are ready to go at night. We're just waiting for the waiver from the feds, and we'll be flying that 24/7 before long.
It's amazing how the cost of those make it so affordable. Certainly much less than, I forget what it is to fly a helicopter, something like a couple $1,000s an hour to operate that.
Right.
Whereas you could invest that 1 hour of flight and have a drone and have the officer trained. And again, it's amazing just the benefits it can use, even in what people may consider a small area like Haines City.
Right. Right. No, we've used it numerous times on burglaries in progress. Even the Walmart store thefts where they run out, we put the drone up and we see exactly where they are. Couple that with the canine that's not too far behind, and the drone operator is able to direct the canine into where the suspect is. So sometimes, just like with the helicopters, you end up with nothing, but the drone has been very successful for us.
It's like everything else. It's just another tool that you can use, in your police bag.
Right.
That depends on the circumstances and the situation. And I don't know if any of our viewers really understand on the drone program for law enforcement. They have some really tight restrictions on how you operate that drone.
Right. Right. There's a lot of, when we initially started the program, it just wasn't a week later we have a drone and here it is flying. There's many hours for the pilot. They're considered a pilot as well, so they have to get their certificate, their license, and there's a lot that has to be done to be certified. We certainly don't want to make the mistake of flying it into somebody's living room one day. The living room we don't want to be in.
Yes, or even over somebody's property that, unless
Right.
you're investigating a crime, like I say, it's
There's
if
a
you
lot
have
of
one.
restrictions.
If you have one personally, you can pretty much do about anything with it, except flying
correct.
near the airport. That they really kind of upset over that.
Right.
But and I know with law enforcement, I mean, you actually have to be working a case, and then when that is resolved, you just have to call it home and park it.
Correct. You can't even go back the next day without a search warrant. So a lot of restrictions for law enforcement. If it's your personal drone, very few restrictions.
But again, it's just a valuable tool, and you just wouldn't think, that a lot of people may be shocked, that how affordable it is and how much use it can get
Right.
from the local law enforcement agency.
Right. Right under 5,000 is what it costs us for the drone.
And now, will you be looking to buy a second drone, or just pass it along between the day shift and night shift?
No, the pilots are going to be very possessive. It's much like having their own patrol car. So, no, we will look at getting another drone as soon as we get the pilot ready.
Yeah. Now, did you have any special equipment you had to set up for the car to carry that, or?
Yes, actually, the drone operator is driving an SUV style vehicle. So when he lifts the back tailgate, we have a nice big screen for him to look at. And instead of looking at what you see on TV, the little drone operators are looking through their goggles. We have relatively a big computer screen in the back. So if I show up on scene, I can see what's going on as well.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny to have you looking through the goggles with the pilot there. You know, you share an eye hole. So that's,
Right.
and it's amazing just the technology in just a couple of years that the drones have come out, how they continue to improve, just like everything else.
Right. Right.
It's an amazing
It's
thing.
great. Amazing tool.
Now, you also have some new personnel. I think you have a new PIO at your...
We have a new PIO. I'll admit it, I stole him from the Ledger. His name is Mike Ferguson, and he's been doing an outstanding job. And it's a great tool for us to have as well, because I was getting a lot of media inquiries on a daily basis. And now Mike has taken over those duties primarily. If there's a press conference I need to do, they want to hear from the chief, he will set it up. But otherwise, he has PIO duties. He does the 9 p.m. routine. I don't know if you've heard of that. He sets that up for me, so that's just a reminder to everybody to lock everything up. It's time. And I noticed last night at 9 he put me on there, so it'll be payback time for him.
I did notice that this morning when I was looking at your Facebook page that he had you posted on that. So
Right.
And that is a very popular thing now. It's just remind people just a simple fact to lock your cars
Right.
at night. You know,
Right.
it's a very simple
Just
routine.
lock it up.
You know, because I know that all the agencies here in Polk Highlands and Hardy County have all had the same thing. We call them the flippers. You know, they just go in neighborhoods, start flipping doors.
Yep.
And whichever one is unlocked is the one they go through. And I mean, it's just a simple fact to lock your car when you get home at night or in the afternoon. You know, and even if you don't think you're done, still lock it, because it's an opportunity
Right.
for somebody to come by and say, "Oh, I see a laptop," or "Oh, I see a purse," or "Oh."
There's that cell phone I wanted. Yep.
Or in some cases, there's maybe a weapon in the car, and I know people a lot of times think, well, I'll go out and lock it later. I'm going to run to the store,
And they forget.
and you just forget. So
Right. And worst case scenarios, like you said, there's a firearm underneath the seat that was legally placed there, and they forgot to lock the doors. And again, crime of opportunity. So people are just pulling door handles, and if it's open, they go in. If it's not, they move on to the next car.
And you get a neighborhood that has 5, 10, 15 of those burglaries in a night, which is not uncommon, sometimes more. And it looks like law enforcement is not doing their job because their stats are going up and they report at the end of the year.
Right.
But this is it's a partnership with the community. I mean, there's some responsibility that the citizens need to partake of, and that's just simple as just hitting the clicker to lock your car.
Absolutely.
Or reach over it. It's a very simple concept.
Absolutely. I feel much better going to a scene where windows are broken out than, oh, I left it unlocked.
Yeah, of course.
Really, again.
Yeah, of course now with cameras, we always have cameras in many neighborhoods, but still, I think sometimes people may get a false sense of security thinking, well, I've got a camera now.
Sure.
And it's sometimes the quality is not good, the lighting is not good. It's a lot better than having nothing, but
Right.
Avoid it completely and just lock your car.
Right. Just lock it up.
Very simple.
Absolutely.
Chief Elensky, going to ask you to stick around for our second segment here.
Certainly.
Crime Stoppers provides a way for local law enforcement to receive information on crimes while keeping the people providing that information anonymous. These efforts increase tips, which in turn solve more crimes and identify criminals in our community. Here's a look at some of our most recent cases.
The Polk County Sheriff's Office continues to investigate a home invasion shooting that resulted in the death of a Dundee woman during the late night hours of Thursday, June 27th. The home invasion occurred around 10:20 p.m. in the area of Danielle Street between Garrison and Foose. 25-year-old Shabron Collins was found inside an apartment with a gunshot wound. She was airlifted to LRHMC where she underwent surgery. She succumbed to her injuries on Friday morning, June 28th. The home invasion is believed to be drug-related. The reward has been increased to $10,000 for the tip submitted to Heartland Crime Stoppers that results in the arrest of the person or persons who committed this murder. On Monday, October 21st, 2019, at approximately 3:55 p.m., Lakeland police officers were dispatched to Cambridge Cove Apartments in reference to a shooting. Once on scene, they found a 19-year-old male in the parking lot that had been shot with critical injuries. According to witnesses, the victim, who from out of town was meeting someone in the parking lot of the apartment complex. Detectives believe that the victim knew his assailant. However, no suspect has been confirmed at this time. This is a composite sketch of the suspect, who is described as a black male, 18 to 25 years of age, with a medium build. Polk County Sheriff's Office detectives are looking for an attempted murder suspect. 30-year-old Marlon Tyrone Burgess is at large and wanted for the attempted murder shooting of another man in the Dawn Heights Drive area in Lakeland. Burgess shot a 20-year-old man after they met at another location in Winter Haven, and Burgess drove the two of them to that area. The two got out of the car, then Burgess shot him multiple times. Burgess fled the scene in a 2013 white Dodge Challenger. Between September 2nd and 3rd, a burglary occurred at the City of Auburndale wastewater treatment plant. Stolen from the location was a white 16-foot Lark box trailer that contained a Gravely 260 mower.
If you have any information on any of the cases you've just seen, or any information on an unsolved crime, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. The toll-free tip line is 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 8477. You can also leave an anonymous web tip by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and click on the Give a Tip tab, or by going to www.p3tips.com. Don't forget, you can download our free P3 Tips app on your smart device. Whichever way you choose to leave a tip, you will remain 100% anonymous. If your tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. The Haines City Police Department is responsible for enforcing the laws of the state of Florida and the Code of Ordinances of Haines City. The department is a recognized leader on the state and national level and serves a diverse population of approximately 30,000 people. The agency is comprised of 60 sworn personnel who cover almost 20 square miles of total land. Joining us for the second segment is Chief James Elensky of the Haines City Police Department. Chief, welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Now, we were talking during the break a little bit about your COPS programs and the growth and some of the issues, but I know that you're working on the COPS program and have some big plans for that.
Right. Currently, we have 2 community policing officers, but my intent is to grow that to a minimum of 4. So we can do it the right way, 4 and a supervisor. And we've had a lot of success with it already, but I brought in some patrol personnel as well. When we have community events, we had something large called Bridging the Gap, and that's what community policing is all about, as you know from your days. It's all about bridging the gap. So community policing will be expanded over the next year, and with the number of rooftops going in our community, that is how, since last time we talked, we've added some additional personnel through the city commissioners and schools. Ridge High School took an additional SRO. They needed an additional one, and so did Haines City High. And you know, we have the largest high school in the county, which is Ridge.
Yes, I remember that. I had forgotten that, but people don't realize, that area, Haines City, that, the Four Corners area has just been exploding the last couple of years. And with new people and new businesses, it brings new issues to have to face.
Right, it certainly does.
Now, I know I had seen some of your post on Facebook about the community events. And it seems like a simple concept, but for community-oriented policing, which is what
Right.
COP stands for,
Right.
To get people, officers out of the cars, to do the things in the community and take time to actually spend time and just talk to people,
Right.
get to know them and let them get to know, the officers. But I remember the days when you're going from call to call to call, you're working wrecks, you're working, thefts, you're working whatever. You don't really have time. You spend all your day, basically taking reports and typing them up and getting them submitted in.
Sure.
And that's where bridging that gap you had talked about comes in with community policing.
Right. And in order to bridge that gap, you must have a dedicated community policing section. And if you don't, you're back to doing just what you said, call to call to call. How are you supposed to get to know people in the neighborhood? You're just not. And in today's, I don't know if you've noticed, but in today's Florida heat, I mean, it's getting hotter. I don't see as many cold fronts, so the windows are darker, and people aren't putting the windows down like they used to in our day, where they could actually talk to folks. So community policing is a key. I'm a staunch supporter of community policing and will be as long as I hold that seat.
Yeah, and it's just a proven, quantity to know that it really works. And interesting you talk about the heat. Back before people had air conditioning, they sat on the front porch or the back porch. They knew their neighbors. They knew what was going on. They saw what was going on, and they talked to each other.
Right.
And now you see so many people, it's hot, they stay inside, and they're watching TV or whatever, they're doing inside because
Right.
it's just too hot to get outside, and so you just have to adapt with how society changes and technology, and sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards.
Right. And as you know, we've got computers in the car, and when you and I first started, there were no computers in the car, so air conditioning is a key to keep the laptops alive and well. And some people, don't understand how come the officers don't ride around with the windows down. How come they're not waving? Well, they might be waving to you, but the windows are up. So again, community policing will take care of that issue, and we're going to go back to the old days of putting them on bikes during times. And the cars will be stationed at areas, they'll be on foot. So just like you and I knew community policing was back in the day.
And the information that you can gain from the community to find out, some of the things that are going on, because it's not something they may want to call in or make a report on, but as they're talking to an officer, they may just say, hey, have you seen that new place down the road that's I'm noticing
Right.
they're selling drugs, or I've seen a lot of people coming in and they're carrying boxes of stuff, and then they come out, they're not carrying boxes of stuff, fencing items, whatever. So
Right.
just getting that confidence back in the officers, knowing that they can talk to an officer one-on-one, and find out, they like the same things, they dislike the same things.
Right.
Right. It really pays a lot of benefits.
It's all about bringing the rapport back, and that's what we need. So
Absolutely.
it's a work in progress, because as a younger generation, officers are coming through the ranks. Some of them are very community policing oriented, and some are not. Just depends on their background.
And some people, like everything else, do better in certain areas.
Right.
Some people make great investigators, and maybe would never make a canine officer, or
Right.
maybe would never want to be in the traffic unit and work crashes.
Right.
People have an inclination for certain things, and that really fits their niche. And you want to be able to provide that, but at the same time, you want a well-rounded officer that can do all of it. There may
Very
be things they prefer to do.
Very true.
But it's you just have to use your personnel, and that's
Right. And that's what makes us a great team, because just like you said, we have certain people that love traffic, but they also know they need to go back up their fellow officer on certain calls, and then they can go back to working their traffic. So in order to have that great team, you have to have those specialty folks out there. So it works well.
And then, of course, when the big thing happens, whether it's a shooting or whatever, then
Everybody comes together.
everybody comes running to take care of business and try to catch the bad guy and make sure the
Right.
community's safe. And
And that's exactly what happened last night, actually. One of the traffic guys caught one of the bad guys. So everybody came together at that scene, and that's how it went down.
yeah, and like I said, the communications are just so important. You had talked about computers. Back when I started, we had a radio in the police car, And when you got out of the car, I mean, you didn't have a radio. So,
Right.
you know, you really had to hone your communication skills and de-escalation skills.
Right.
Or have, you know, the strength to know that you will be able to handle a situation. And sometimes the best way to handle the situation is with your mouth.
Right.
You know, to calm
Right.
it down, you know, but
Little did you know back in that day you were de-escalating. Now there's so much training on de-escalating, but you were very good at it back in the day because you didn't have a radio to call for backup.
it has changed so much. Like I say, the technology just, you know, for the citizens, it's changed for law enforcement as well. And I remember my first walkie-talkie, I think it weighed about 15 pounds, seemed like, you know.
Right. And our first cell phone, that's correct, the big box.
Yeah, so it is just really interesting to watch where law enforcement is going. Now, I know you talked about the growth up in, you know, in the Haines City area, up in the Davenport, Four Corners area.
Right.
Y'all have done some annexation, and I'm sure that the city will probably be looking to get some more of that, I would hope.
Most certainly, most certainly. There's a lot of new rooftops going in Haines City and Davenport, so both city limits. And as you know, we join up together. So I can imagine in the next 2 years we'll be over 30,000 people. It'll be interesting to see how the new census turns out. Right now they have us a little under 30, but I'm quite confident we're 30 or better now. And as you know, there's over 50,000 cars going on 27 daily.
I knew there was a lot of cars. I didn't realize there was that many. And a lot of those people are commuting. Golly, I've seen just the warehouse space, the distribution warehouses, and pulling people in that want to live close to work, you know. And
Right.
so it certainly speaks well of what the city has done to draw these businesses in.
Right.
And then the support that you get, you know, from your city commissioners, and allowing you to do the things that you need to do to make sure that you provide the safety for these people.
Right. From the city manager through the city commission, I have 100% support. I haven't had any pushback since I've been there about any items we need, new rifles, new cars, just new equipment in general. No pushback whatsoever. In fact, they gave us more officers for this budget cycle, and I expect to see the same next year.
Now, one of the things as you're looking to increase your personnel in there, that may be enticing for someone who may be listening, you have for the officers the take-home car program, do you not?
That's correct. We do have a take-home car, and you and I both know I had a take-home car at the sheriff's office, and it does allow you to take better care of your vehicle. Most people take pride in what they have, so if they have a take-home car and they're not sharing it with somebody, they take pride in it. Also, it allows more uniformed, marked cars, and we have plenty of unmarked cars too, as some people have learned the hard way. But with those vehicles on the road, whether you're off duty or on duty, you're going to the gym, you can take your patrol vehicle, the image is there. So certainly the criminal knows, well, there's a lot more officers out here than I thought. Let's move on somewhere else.
Exactly, and that is so important. That's so much part of our job, because you never know how many crimes you prevented.
You never know.
You know how many crimes maybe you didn't catch, but you never know how many you prevented just by driving by.
Right.
You know, maybe going to the gym, like you say, or going to and from work. Because even though you're off duty, when you're in the car, you're on duty.
You're on duty, yep. You still have to keep your head on a swivel, and you can still take enforcement action. So that's correct. You're just never off duty when you're in that car.
Well, Chief Olinsky, thank you for coming in, and we hope you get some rest later tonight.
I'm going to get some sleep today.
I know it's been a long day and a short night, but thank you so much for what you're doing for Haines City and for the rest of us in Polk County.
Well, thank you.
For more information on the Haines City Police Department, you can visit them on the web at www.cityofhainescity.com or follow them on Facebook at Haines City Police. That's going to do it for this edition of Crime Stoppers. For more information, you can check us out on the web at heartlandcrimestoppers.com or follow us on Facebook at Heartland Crime Stoppers Florida. Until next time, keep in mind, it's a crime, and you can help make sure that they don't get away with it.